Hello there, my name is Louise Reynolds and I'm a registered dietitian with the Irish Nutrition and Dietetic Institute, and I'm delighted to be talking to you all here today as part of the Airfield Community Food Hub. And I'm really delighted to be involved with this project because it's so important to talk about good food and sustainability, and of course what I'm talking about today is healthy eating on a budget. And this is something as dietitians that we really get asked about a lot, particularly this year with COVID-19, the way a lot of people, all our circumstances have changed, we're all really being very careful about the amount of money coming in and out of the house. So what we spend on our food, we need to make sure that we're making the best choices for ourselves and really for the whole family. And I know how expensive it can be to feed everybody and keeping everybody with breakfast, lunches, dinners, takeaway packed lunches for schools. So it's a good idea to have a kind of a think about it. And I'm going to give you some hints and tips that you can take with you and hopefully make some small changes to the things that you're already doing at home. And in that way, make sure that you're kind of hitting all of your family's nutritional needs without breaking the bank. Okay, so really where a good place to start is the supermarket, because on a daily basis or hopefully on a weekly basis, that's where we're kind of going and hoping to make the right choices. And the best thing I would say is if you make the right choice in the supermarket, you're halfway there, because then when you're at home, you have the right foods in the house. When somebody comes in and they're hungry, or someone's looking in the cupboard for a snack or opening the fridge, at least you have the right foods there. A really good tip if you don't want your children snacking on sugary, high-fat, very sweet foods, a good tip is say no once in the supermarket and then you don't have to say no 10 times at home. So what I mean by that is don't buy the foods into the house that you don't want your children eating, okay? So first tip, try and go shopping if possible on your own, because we know that if you bring children with you, they're going to be reaching for the brightly coloured packets, for the cereal boxes with the cartoon characters on them. All of these tend to be more expensive and very often not the best choice in terms of nutrition. So if you can go shopping on your own, I know it's not always possible, but it's a good idea. Also, I'd say don't go shopping when you're hungry, because we've all been in that situation where you go into the supermarket, you're absolutely starving, and of course you smell the lovely cakes and maybe you're tempted by the foods that are on special offer, buy one, get one free. They're only good value if you need them anyway, okay? So it's a good idea to get a special offer, absolutely, but it's better to get special offers on maybe fruits and vegetables or on, meat and fish. But if you're buying kind of lots of sweets and cakes and biscuits, buy one, get one free, maybe that's not going to be the best nutritional choice in the long term. Then in terms of the kinds of foods to go for and how you can kind of make the right choices. If you think of the food pyramid, which as dietitians we're very familiar with, and I'm not sure if you all know exactly what I'm talking about, but you've probably seen it before, the triangle shape with a whole range of different foods on different shelves. On the very bottom shelf, you have the foods that you need the most of in your diet, and as the pyramid gets smaller towards the top, they're the foods we need to have in smaller quantities. So in the Irish food pyramid, right across the very bottom, it's fruit and vegetables, okay? And I have a great selection here, and they add lots of colour to the display here, and that's really what they add to your diet. Lots of colour, flavour and fibre. And of course, if you buy them in season, they can be really, really good value as well. A recent study showed that in fact most of our fruit and vegetable intakes comes from about 3 or 4 of the most popular ones. So don't feel that you have to be buying and cooking very exotic fruits and vegetables. If it's carrots and onions and peas, that's fantastic. Have those in your cupboard. Certainly as well, when it comes to vegetables, go for frozen vegetables. They are frozen really quickly. They're still really high in nutrition, high in fibre, and of course there's less waste with frozen because you tend to just take out the amount that you need and you can put the rest of the pack back into the freezer. So frozen vegetables, a great idea, great to have on a standby. And in fact, this dish here, which is a really delicious rice stir fry. You can see in there's kind of frozen carrots and peas. You could throw whatever you have in the cupboard into something like that. If you come in from work, everybody's hungry, you don't have much time, that's the kind of ideal dish that you could make from really cheap staple ingredients. In here we've kind of got rice, you've got a selection of vegetables, and you can have a look in the fridge, throw in whatever you have, maybe some peppers. Again, we've mentioned carrots, onions and peas. There's some mushrooms in there as well. So things like that. It doesn't have to always be a huge meal with meat and veg and potatoes every day, that type of a big dinner. You can make something that's quick and easy that all of the family will eat as well. Another great example that I have of family meals is the pasta, a macaroni cheese over here. And again, the recipe for this will be on the Community Food Hub. And again, that's a real family pleaser with pasta and cheese, and made with milk as well, really high in protein and fantastic for everybody, from the babies right through to the older adults in the house. So we've got fruit and vegetables, then the pasta is a great source of carbohydrate, and that's the next shelf on the food pyramid. So you've got pasta, we have bread here, some porridge, and I've got some high fibre cereals. Again, these are foods that are great for snacking for children. So if you have a teenage boy at home, chances are he'll come in from school and he might be absolutely starving. So instead of lots of biscuits, it's a good idea to go for cereal. And again, in terms of choosing the right type of cereal, something which is high in fibre is really important. Fibre is very important for our digestive system, and it keeps our gut moving really, really healthily. So high fibre cereals, very often they're the more brown type of ones, more fibrous cereals are really good ones to go for. Porridge is a great cereal as well, and if you have somebody in your house who likes porridge, that's fantastic. Stick with it. It's not fortified with iron. Some of the other cereals are, so they can be a good choice to get some more iron into our diet. But porridge is really high in soluble fibre, really low in fat, and it's a real firm family favourite, and it's really good value. So you can get a big bag of porridge, and that can, last you for a couple of weeks in the press. You can add a lot of different things to it now. You can add, fruit. You can put some yogurt in, you can put some raisins or chopped banana, whatever you have at home. Even I've seen now people can stir a spoonful of peanut butter into their porridge as well, so that's adding a little bit of extra protein. So all of those cereals, try and go for the high fibre varieties, okay? Remember, in Ireland we don't get enough fibre, so fibre is found in fruit, in vegetables, in brown bread, in the skin of our potatoes. So try and eat the potatoes with their jackets on. Baked potatoes are a great dinner to have. If you throw in a whole tray of baked potatoes, and then you can serve those cut across on the top with some baked beans and maybe grated cheese on top. Again, really cheap, but really nutritious, and can keep all the family kind of really satisfied after a nice quick tea that you could make during the week. So that's all our high fibre foods. Again, go for brown where possible. If you have a child that only likes white bread, that's fine. We all know that over time we change, our tastes can change, and you can introduce whole grains and wholemeal breads as a child gets older, and that's a good way to kind of have a mix in the diet as well. The next shelf on the food pyramid is a great one for protein and for good value protein, and that's the dairy shelf. So I have some milk and I have some cheese slices here, and yogurt, of course, is in this group as well. So milk is a great source of protein, a fantastic source of calcium, and it's something that if you have children at home who drink milk, that's great for them to have a glass in the morning or on their cereal, maybe after school to have a glass of milk with maybe, I have here some apple and peanut butter, which if you haven't tried it, I'd recommend it. It's really tasty, and you're getting a piece of fruit and some nut butter then, which is a really good source of protein as well. Cheese and crackers as well is a great snack for children when they come in from school. So milk is something that we need in our diet for calcium. It's recommended that we would have about 3 servings a day to ensure that we're getting enough calcium, and that applies to all the family. So as you get older, we still need calcium in our diet. So try and include it. If you cook with milk or cheese, it doesn't affect the calcium. So for example, in this macaroni cheese again, that's another good way to get your calcium intake in the diet. So milk, it doesn't matter again if you buy an own brand or any brand that you go for, it really doesn't matter. You're still going to get the good source of protein and calcium. So you can save some money there by buying some own brands. And that's a good idea as well when you go to the supermarket. Very often the own brands are kind of lower down on the shelves. So we'd often say stretch and save. So in that way you can kind of stretch down, have a little look at the bottom. You might find some of the own brands there. The next shelf on the food pyramid are protein foods, and again, this is where the own brands, I have some of the beans here. Where are my beans? I have some chickpeas and some beans here, some kidney beans. These are really, really cheap, really good source of good quality protein. So if you're vegetarian, you're going to be relying on these a lot, but you don't need to be vegetarian to include these foods in your diet. So they're a really good source of protein. So just remember, we don't have to have meat every day, okay? It's recommended that in fact we have a couple of vegetarian days in the week, and they would be a great idea to make maybe a bean stew or a bean curry or chili with lots of beans in it. Again, lentils are a fantastic, really cheap source of protein. And again, on the Community Food Hub, you can find a fantastic recipe for lentil dal, which is absolutely delicious and really, really cheap and easy to make as well. And again, if you have children and they're not sure about trying something new, don't worry, children will learn by example. If you're eating something, they're more likely to try it. So do expose them to lots of different flavors and tastes and colors of foods as much as you can. Another tip I'd say is don't get into the habit of making 2 or 3 different dinners. So if you're trying something new, still put maybe a selection of foods in the middle of the table and have something there that you know your child will like to eat, and maybe over time they'll become a little bit more adventurous and start to include lots more color and flavor on their plate. So, you know, it's quite normal for very young children to have quite bland eating habits at first, and then they become more adventurous as they get older. So beans are fantastic. Another tin here, I've got some tinned fish. Again, if you have a fishmonger nearby and if you like cooking fish, it's a fantastic food. It's really high in vitamin D, the oily fish, and also lots of important fish oils there, which are really good for brain development. However, when you sometimes buy the processed fish, it may not be as nutritious. So it's a matter of kind of having a little look at labels and seeing what is the best way to include fish in the diet. Tinned fish is really good because, again, it doesn't go off. You can keep it in the press, whereas if you buy fresh fish and if you don't cook it in time, there's a lot of food waste there as well. So definitely tinned fish is a great one to include, and it can be quite popular with children as well. Tinned tuna in a sandwich can be a really good way to include that really nice protein for children in their school lunches. Then we have eggs as well, so don't forget eggs. Eggs are really nutritious. We often forget about eggs and think, oh, maybe eggs are only for breakfast, but eggs are a fantastic meal making food that you can have at home and really cheap. You can make an omelette, you know, that's fantastic for dinner in the evening time, maybe have a small salad with it. Even a frittata, which is kind of similar to an omelette, but you can put in, again, whatever vegetables you have in the fridge. Maybe if you've got some potatoes left over that you used the day before, and they can be thrown in as well. So frittatas are a great, delicious food to have. And again, just kind of get away from the idea of thinking that we have to always have meat and veg and potatoes for dinner. So that brings me then to the very top of the food pyramid, which would be the foods there that would be kind of cakes and oils and butters and sweets and things like that we probably don't need in very large quantities. So I haven't included them here. Just keep in mind, again, in terms of shopping, particularly if you have young children, you really are the gatekeeper in terms of what's coming into the house. So if you don't want your child eating something, you know, don't bring it in. I know it's easier said than done, and we all like nice treats, but it is important to keep them in moderation. If you have a limited budget and you're trying to get the right things for your family, you know, a lot of those foods can be very expensive. So it's a good idea to kind of try and get the basics right. Again, in terms of fruits and things, I have some raspberries here, but really we should probably be eating fruits in season. And again, with, you know, when I was growing up, we only had strawberries in July and August, really. Whereas now you can buy strawberries all year round. They do tend to be quite expensive. So probably you're better just sticking with the cheaper types of fruits that your children will enjoy. It doesn't have to be really exotic. So I think that's important as well, just to remember, get back to basics. You know, we're talking about including more kind of carrots and peas and onions, apples and oranges and bananas. They are really packed full of nutrition. Things like tomatoes, a great salad food, cucumber, they're really nice, either raw or cooked. They can be just sliced up in lunch boxes, a cucumber or a carrot, or even carrots then, you know, added into the dinner. So it doesn't have to be exotic. Again, anything else, I just have some hummus here, which is, again, for protein, is a handy one that children enjoy, and that can be added in with lots of different kind of fruits. So just try and be a little bit adventurous, but don't think, you know, try not to feel that it's too complicated. Healthy eating, it doesn't have to be really, really complicated. And if you make, you know, kind of the wise choices when you're at the supermarket, it doesn't have to be expensive either. So I hope I've given you kind of a bit of food for thought there. Do check out the Community Food Hub. There's lots of recipes there, lots of information about sustainability, and, you know, the best of luck. I hope you can take even 1 or 2 of those tips on board. Don't feel you have to change everything, because we know that changing our behavior is not always that easy. But if you can make 1 or 2 changes, that can have a long-term positive impact on your family's health. So check out the Community Food Hub, and thanks for watching today.